Welcome back, beautiful people. If you're ready for a story that'll make your heart race and your breath catch, you're in exactly the right place. Before we dive in, show this channel some love. Hit that like button. It's free, it takes 1 second, and it means the world to me. And if you're new here, smash that subscribe button so you never miss a story. Drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. I love knowing this community is global. All right, let's get started. Isabella Torres realizes she left her diary on his desk approximately 30 seconds too late. She's already in the elevator, already descending from the penthouse gallery, already watching the floor numbers tick down towards street level. 27th floor, 26th, 25th. Her stomach drops with each number, but not from the elevator's descent. The diary. Black leather worn at the edges, filled with 3 months of her most private thoughts. Sketches of paintings she wants to curate. Notes about artists she's researching. And, God, why did she write this down? Pages and pages about Jae-sung Park. The man who owns the gallery. The man who hired her. The man she's been hopelessly, stupidly, catastrophically in love with since the day she walked into his office for her interview. Isabella presses the elevator button frantically, trying to go back up. It doesn't respond. Of course it doesn't. The penthouse requires a special key card, and she'd returned hers to his assistant 10 minutes ago when she'd finished cataloguing the new Van Gogh acquisition. She could go back, could explain to security, could make up some excuse about forgetting her phone or her… No, that's worse. That means admitting she left something personal in his private office. That means watching him hand it back to her with that unreadable expression he always wears, those dark eyes that seem to see through every professional mask she tries to maintain. Maybe he won't notice it. Maybe he'll assume it's a work notebook and set it aside. Maybe… Her phone buzzes. Unknown number. She answers without thinking. Hello? Isabella. His voice is silk over steel, low, controlled, devastating. You left something in my office. Oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God. I'll send someone down with it, he continues. Or you could come back up and retrieve it yourself. There's something in his tone, something that makes her skin prickle with awareness. He knows. He read it. Her voice cracks. Oh, I'll come back up. I thought you might. The line goes dead. Isabella stares at her phone, her reflection ghostly in the polished elevator doors. She looks exactly like someone whose entire professional life is about to implode, pale, wide-eyed, terrified. The elevator doors open. She steps out into the Seoul night, the January cold biting at her skin. For one wild moment she considers running, getting in a taxi, going to the airport, flying back to New York and never, ever returning to Korea. But that's the coward's way out. And Isabella Torres might be many things. Broke, struggling, in love with a man who's completely out of her league, but she's not a coward. She turns back toward the building. Time to face the music. 3 months earlier, the Park Gallery occupied the top 3 floors of a glass tower in Gangnam. And Isabella had never felt more out of place in her life. She stood in the marble lobby, clutching her portfolio case, trying not to gape at the Rothko hanging casually on the wall like it wasn't worth more than her entire existence. Ms. Torres? A woman in her 50s approached, elegant in a way that made Isabella suddenly aware of every wrinkle in her interview suit. I'm Mrs. Choi, Mr. Park's executive assistant. He'll see you now. The elevator ride to the penthouse felt like ascending to Mount Olympus. Mrs. Choi made polite small talk. Had Isabella settled into Seoul? Was her apartment comfortable? How was she adjusting to the time difference? But Isabella could barely focus. This interview was everything. 6 months ago, she'd been a junior curator at a struggling gallery in Brooklyn, drowning in student debt, watching her career stagnate. Then the Park Gallery had posted an opening for a Western art specialist, and Isabella had applied on a whim. She never expected to get an interview. She definitely never expected them to fly her to Seoul, put her up in a hotel, and arrange this meeting with Jae-sung Park himself. The elevator doors opened directly into his office, and Isabella forgot how to breathe. The space was enormous. Floor-to-ceiling windows framed a view of Seoul that looked like something out of a movie. Art hung on every wall, Monet, Picasso, Basquiat, arranged with a curator's eye for composition and flow, but the art paled in comparison to the man standing by the windows. Jae-sung Park turned as she entered, and Isabella's heart did something complicated in her chest. Tall, easily 6'3", sharp-featured, with the kind of bone structure that belonged on magazine covers. Dark hair swept back from his face, dark eyes that tracked her movement across the room like a predator assessing prey. He was wearing a black suit that probably cost more than her flight here. No tie, the top button of his shirt undone in a way that should have looked casual, but somehow looked dangerous. "Ms. Torres," his voice matched his appearance, smooth, controlled, with just a hint of a Korean accent that made her name sound exotic. "Please sit." Isabella sat. Her portfolio case felt heavy in her lap. "You studied at Columbia," Jae-sung said, settling into the chair across from her. Not behind his desk, she noticed. This was meant to feel like a conversation, not an interrogation. It didn't help. Everything about him screamed power. "Yes," Isabella managed. "At your art history with a focus on 20th century American painters. Your thesis was on Rothko's late period. The dark paintings." She blinked. "You read my thesis." "I read everything about the people I'm considering hiring." He leaned back, studying her. "Your interpretation of Rothko's final works as meditations on mortality, rather than depression, was compelling." "Thank you." "I didn't say I agreed with it." Isabella felt a spark of something, indignation maybe, cut through her nervousness. "Then what would you call them?" "A conversation with the void. Not about death, but about the space where meaning collapses." His lips curved slightly. "But I appreciate that you have opinions. Most curators I interview simply parrot academic consensus." "I'm not most curators." "No." His eyes held hers. "You're not." The moment stretched. Isabella realized she was staring. She looked down at her portfolio case, her face heating. "Would you like to see my work?" "I've already reviewed your portfolio. The exhibition you curated last year, Abstract Expressionism and Urban Decay, showed remarkable insight for someone your age. I'm 28, not exactly fresh out of school. I'm 34. In this industry, we're both children." He stood, walked to the windows. "The position I'm offering requires someone who understands Western art but isn't precious about it. Someone who can argue with collectors, negotiate with museums, and tell me when I'm wrong about a piece." "And you think I can do that?" "I think you're the only person I've interviewed who's challenged me in the first 5 minutes." "Yes, I think you can do that." He turned to face her, backlit by the Seoul skyline. "Why, the salary is $100,000 plus housing allowance and healthcare. You'd report directly to me. Your primary responsibility would be acquiring and curating our Western art collection, with a focus on American contemporary and post-war periods." Isabella's brain stalled on the salary. $100,000. She made $40,000 at her last job. She swallowed. "That's very generous. It's competitive for this market, and I expect you to earn it." He crossed back to her, held out his hand. "Do we have an agreement, Ms. Torres?" Isabella looked at his extended hand. This was insane. She'd been in Seoul for less than 24 hours. She barely knew anything about this gallery, about him, about what she'd be getting into. But $100,000 would pay off her student loans, would give her mother back in Los Angeles some financial breathing room, would let Isabella finally build the career she'd dreamed about. She stood, took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and sent electricity up her arm. "We have an agreement, Mr. Park." "Jae-sung," he corrected. "We'll be working closely. Formality isn't necessary." His hand lingered on hers a beat too long. Isabella pulled away first, her pulse hammering. "When do I start?" "Monday. Mrs. Choi will handle your paperwork." He returned to his desk, all business now. "Welcome to the Park Gallery, Isabella." She left his office in a daze. It wasn't until she was back in her hotel room that she realized she'd agreed to work for a man she knew almost nothing about. A quick internet search revealed the basics. Jae-sung Park, heir to the Park Group conglomerate, owned galleries in Seoul, Tokyo, and New York. He'd taken over the family business 5 years ago after his father's death. But there was something else. Whispers in art world forums about his family's connections, rumors about how the Park Group had built its empire. Nothing concrete. Nothing Isabella could point to and say, this is proof. But enough to make her wonder what she'd just signed up for. By the end of her first week, Isabella was in love. Not with the job, though the job was incredible. Access to art that most curators would kill to touch, an unlimited acquisition budget, the kind of professional freedom she'd never dreamed of. No, she was in love with Jae-sung Park. It happened gradually, then all at once. The way he'd stay late going through auction catalogues with her, pointing out details she'd missed. Trusting her opinion even when he disagreed. The way he knew everyone's name in the gallery, from the security guards to the cleaning staff, and treated them with the same courtesy he showed major collectors. The way he'd bring her coffee during long cataloguing sessions. Americano, extra shot, exactly how she liked it even though she'd never told him. The way he looked at art. That was what did it, really. Isabella watched him stand in front of a Basquiat for 20 minutes once, just looking, not analysing, not appraising, just experiencing it. When he'd finally turned to her, there was something raw in his expression, something vulnerable. "This is why I do this," he'd said quietly. "Not for the money or the prestige, for this, the feeling of standing in front of something that makes you forget how to breathe." Isabella had understood. In that moment, that Jae-sung Park wasn't just a businessman playing at being an art collector. He was an artist trapped in a businessman's life. And she wanted desperately to free him. The problem was, he barely seemed to notice she existed outside of work. Their interactions were professional, friendly even, but never crossing that invisible line into personal. Isabella told herself it was better this way. He was her boss. He was Korean elite, old money, the kind of pedigree that made her Brooklyn upbringing look like poverty. She was his employee, his Western art specialist, useful, competent, but ultimately replaceable. Except for the moments when she'd catch him looking at her, and something in his expression made her wonder if, maybe, just maybe, she wasn't imagining the electricity between them. The moments when his hand would brush hers passing a catalogue, and he'd pull away like he'd been burned. The moments when she'd turn around to find him watching her with an intensity that made her skin prickle with awareness. She started writing about it in her diary. Her therapist back in New York had suggested journaling as a way to process her emotions. Isabella had been skeptical, but she'd tried it, and found that putting her impossible, inappropriate, catastrophic feelings into words made them somehow more bearable. October 15th. He brought me coffee again today. He doesn't do that for anyone else. Mrs. Choi confirmed it when I asked her, casually like I wasn't dying to know. Does it mean something? Or am I reading into basic kindness because I'm so desperate for any sign that he sees me as more than just an employee? October 23rd. We stayed late working on the Pollock acquisition. At one point, we were both leaning over the same catalogue, and I could smell his cologne. Something expensive. Cedar and smoke. I wanted to turn my head, close the distance between us, find out if he tastes as good as he smells. Instead, I made an excuse and left early. I'm a coward. November 2nd. Caught him staring at me today during the collector's dinner. Not looking. Staring, like he was trying to memorize my face. When I met his eyes, he didn't look away. Just held my gaze across the room until I had to break contact because I literally couldn't breathe. What does it mean? What does any of this mean? November 18th. I'm in love with him. I've been in love with him since the interview, probably, since he challenged my thesis and looked at me like I was interesting. Since he said, "I appreciate that you have opinions." I'm in love with a man who will never love me back, and I don't know how to make myself stop. The diary became her confessional. Every small interaction analysed and reanalyzed, every meaningful glance, dissected for hidden meaning. Every moment of impossible longing poured onto the page. She never meant for him to see it. The day everything changed started like any other. Isabella arrived at the gallery at 8 a.m., coffee in hand, ready to catalogue the new Van Gogh that had arrived from a private collector in Amsterdam. The painting was extraordinary. Late period, all violent brushstrokes and emotional intensity. The kind of work that made you feel the artist's anguish in your bones. Jae-sung was already in his office when she arrived. "Morning," he said, eyed looking up from his computer. "The Van Gogh is in the secure viewing room. Take your time with it. I want a full condition report by end of day." "Of course," she turned to leave. "Isabella," she looked back. He was studying her with that unreadable expression. "Are you all right? You seem distracted lately." "Because I'm in love with you," she didn't say. "Because every day working next to you is torture," she didn't say. "Because I want things I can't have," she didn't say. "I'm fine," she said. "Just tired. I'll get started on the Van Gogh." She spent the next 6 hours in the viewing room, examining the painting under different lights, taking detailed photographs, making notes about the condition of the canvas and the frame. It was meditative work, the kind that let her mind wander. She thought about Jae-sung, as she always thought about Jae-sung, the way he'd looked at her this morning, concerned, like he actually cared about her well-being beyond her usefulness to the gallery. Was she reading into it? Probably. She was always reading into things when it came to him. By 3 p.m., she was done with the condition report. She gathered her notes, her camera, her coffee cup. And somehow, in the shuffle of organizing everything, she left her diary on the small desk in the viewing room. She didn't realize it until hours later. After she'd delivered her report to Jae-sung's office, after she'd chatted with Mrs. Choi about weekend plans, after she'd collected her coat and bag and headed for the elevator, after the doors had closed and she'd descended past the point of no return. That's when her hand went to her bag, searching for the familiar weight of the leather journal. That's when panic had flooded her system. That's when she'd realized exactly where she'd left it. On Jae-sung's desk, in his private office, where she'd set it down while delivering her report, meaning to pick it up on her way out. And now he was calling her, his voice dark with something she couldn't name, telling her to come back up. Isabella steps out of the elevator into Jae-sung's office for the second time that day. He's standing by the windows again, her diary in his hand. The black leather looks small in his grip. "Close the door," he says without turning around. She does. The click echoes in the enormous space. "I didn't mean to read it," Jae-sung says. His voice is carefully controlled. "I thought it was a work notebook. And I opened it to see which piece you'd been cataloguing." He turns to face her. His expression is unreadable, but there's something in his eyes, something fierce. "I read 3 pages before I realized what I was looking at," he continues. "And then I couldn't stop." Isabella's throat closes. "I'm sorry," she manages. It's personal. I shouldn't have brought it to the office. I shouldn't have." "November 18th, Jae-sung reads, his eyes on the page. "I'm in love with him. I've been in love with him since the interview, probably. Oh, God. Since he challenged my thesis and looked at me like I was interesting. Since he said I appreciate that you have opinions. I'm in love with a man who will never love me back, and I don't know how to make myself stop." He closes the diary, looks at her. 3 months, he says quietly. "You've been in love with me for 3 months." It's not a question. Isabella wants to die, wants the floor to open up and swallow her whole. "I'll resign," she says. Her voice sounds strange, distant. "I'll submit my resignation tomorrow. I'm sorry. I know this is inappropriate. I'll—" "Stop talking." The command in his voice freezes her. Jae-sung crosses the room. He moves like a predator, all controlled grace and coiled strength. He stops 2 feet away from her, close enough that she can smell his cologne, close enough that she has to tilt her head back to meet his eyes. "October 23rd, he says, his voice dropping lower. "We stayed late working on the Pollock acquisition. At one point, we were both leaning over the same catalogue, and I could smell his cologne. Something expensive. Cedar and smoke. His hand comes up, our fingers brushing her jaw. I wanted to turn my head, close the distance between us, find out if he tastes as good as he smells. Isabella can't breathe. Did you want to know why I brought you coffee every morning? Jae-sung asks. His thumb traces her cheekbone. Why I stayed late working on acquisitions I could have delegated. Why I found excuses to be near you. She stares at him. Because I've been going insane, Isabella. 3 months of working next to you. 3 months of watching you look at art with those eyes that see everything. 3 months of forcing myself to maintain professional distance when all I wanted was to... He stops, jaw clenching. To what? Isabella whispers. To do this. He kisses her. It's not gentle. It's desperate, consuming. 3 months of restraint shattering in an instant. Isabella gasps against his mouth and he deepens the kiss, one hand sliding into her hair, the other pulling her closer. She tastes cedar and smoke and something uniquely him. It's better than she imagined, so much better. When they finally break apart, both breathing hard, Jae-sung rests his forehead against hers. I've wanted you since the interview, he says roughly. Since you challenged me on Rothko. Since you looked at me like I was just a man, not a park. Do you have any idea how rare that is? You're my boss, Isabella says, even as her hands are fisting in his shirt. I don't care. The power dynamic, we'll figure it out. Jae-sung, no. He pulls back enough to meet her eyes. No more excuses, no more professional distance. I've read your diary, Isabella. I know how you feel. And I'm telling you right now, I feel the same way. You can't. Why not? Because you're... She gestures vaguely. You. And I'm just some broke curator from Brooklyn who got lucky. You're brilliant, you're talented. You see art the way I do, like it's the only thing that matters. His hands frame her face. And you're not just some curator. You're the woman who's been driving me insane for 3 months. I wrote pages about you, she says. Her face is burning. Embarrassing, pathetic pages about every tiny interaction. I know. I read them all. That's mortifying. That's honest. He kisses her forehead. I wish I'd been brave enough to write something similar. Instead, I just stayed late at the office, hoping you'd stay late too. I brought you coffee, hoping you'd notice. I looked for any excuse to be near you. I thought you barely noticed me. I noticed everything. The way you bite your lip when you're thinking. How you always tuck your hair behind your left ear when you're nervous. The way you light up when you talk about art you love. His thumb brushes her lower lip. I've memorized all of it. Isabella's heart is trying to beat out of her chest. This is crazy, she whispers. Completely. We work together. You own the gallery. I'm your employee. I can transfer oversight of your position to the board. You'd still work here, but you wouldn't report to me directly. Your family? My family doesn't control my personal life. His voice hardens. They tried that once. It didn't end well. There's a story there, Isabella realizes. Pain underneath the controlled exterior. What happened? That's a conversation for later. Right now. He kisses her again, softer this time. Right now, I just need to know. Was the diary real? Do you actually... Yes. She doesn't let him finish. Yes, it's real. Yes, I love you. Yes, I've been in love with you for 3 months. Yes, it's been torture. Yes, I thought about quitting because it hurt too much. Yes, He cuts her off with another kiss. This one feels like a promise. When they finally break apart, Isabella is dizzy. Stay, Jae-sung says. Tonight. Let me take you to dinner. Let me do this properly instead of just... He gestures at the office. Instead of kissing you in my office like I have no self-control. You have excellent self-control. You lasted 3 months. I have terrible self-control. I read your entire diary instead of closing it after the first page. Isabella laughs. It bubbles up, bright and unexpected. I can't believe this is happening. Believe it. He's smiling now. A real smile, not the polite professional mask he shows the world. I'm taking you to dinner, and then I'm taking you out again tomorrow. and the day after that, until you believe this is real. What if people talk? Let them talk. The gallery board will adjust. I'll make them adjust. His hands slide down to her waist. Isabella, I don't care about any of that. I care about you. She should probably be practical, should probably think about her career, her reputation, the complications. Instead, she kisses him. And for the first time in 3 months, everything feels right. Hold on a second. If you're enjoying this story, I go ahead and hit that like button and subscribe so you catch part 2 when it drops. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now, back to Isabella and Jae-sung. Dinner is at a small restaurant in Itaewon, the kind of place that doesn't have a sign or a website. Jae-sung knows the owner. Of course he does. They're seated in a private room, paper screens blocking them from the other diners. This is one of my favorite places, Jae-sung says, pouring soju into her glass. No pretense, no performance, just good food and privacy. Do you need a lot of privacy? Isabella asks. Something shifts in his expression. In my world? Yes. What world is that exactly? He takes a drink. What have you heard? Rumors. Nothing concrete. Are whispers about your family's connections. And what do the whispers say? That the Park Group didn't build its empire through legal means alone. Jae-sung sets down his glass. They're not wrong. Isabella's stomach tightens. My family has been involved in, let's call it grey area business for 3 generations, he continues. My grandfather started with legitimate shipping, then expanded into less legitimate ventures. My father continued the tradition. And you? I'm trying to go legitimate. The galleries are clean, completely legal, completely above board. He meets her eyes. But the rest of the Park Group, that's still a work in progress. Is it dangerous? Sometimes. Should I be worried? Not about you. I'd never let anything touch you. His hand finds hers across the table. But I need you to understand what you're getting into. My family has enemies. My life isn't simple or safe. If we do this, if we're together, you'll be part of that world. Isabella should probably run. This is the smart moment to thank him for his honesty and walk away. Instead, she threads her fingers through his. Tell me more. He does. Over grilled beef and soju, Jae-sung tells her about growing up in a world where loyalty was everything and weakness was fatal. About his father's death 5 years ago, officially a heart attack, unofficially something much more complicated. About taking over the family business at 29 and discovering just how deep the corruption ran. About slowly, carefully trying to shift the Park Group toward legitimate business while keeping his family's enemies at bay. The galleries are my escape, he says. The one part of my life that's clean, that's real, that's mine. Is that why you hired me? Because I'm outside all of this? I hired you because you're brilliant. He refills her glass. But yes, you're separate from the family business. You look at me and see a man who loves art, not a park. You are a man who loves art. I'm both. The question is whether you can accept both sides. Isabella considers this. She should probably say no, should probably protect herself. But she's been in love with this man for 3 months. She's not going to walk away now just because it's complicated. I accept both sides, she says. But I have conditions. His eyebrows rise. Conditions? You said you'd transfer oversight of my position to the board. I want that in writing. And I won't be your employee and your girlfriend. Done. And you don't get to protect me by keeping secrets. If something's dangerous, I need to know. Agreed. And you definitely don't get to use your family's resources to intimidate anyone on my behalf without asking first. He smiles. Has anyone ever told you you're bossy? Has anyone ever told you you're controlling? Frequently. He stands, holds out his hand. Dance with me. There's no music. There's always music if you listen. Isabella takes his hand. He pulls her close and they sway in the private room, surrounded by paper screens and the smell of grilled meat. It's ridiculous. It's perfect. I read your entry from November 2nd. Jae-sung murmurs against her hair. About me staring at you during the collector's dinner. Please don't remind me. You wanted to know what it meant. And? It meant I was trying to memorize your face because I thought I could never have you. His arms tighten around her. It meant I was torturing myself, watching you across the room, wanting you so badly I could barely think. You could have said something. I'm your boss. The power dynamic is something we're figuring out, Isabella finishes. Together. Together? He agrees. They stay like that for a long moment, just holding each other. Then Jae-sung's phone buzzes. He ignores it. It buzzes again. You should check that, Isabella says. He pulls out his phone, frowns at the screen. His expression goes cold. What is it? My brother. He types a quick response. So there's a situation with one of our shipping contracts. I need to handle it. Tonight? Now. He looks genuinely regretful. I'm sorry, this is exactly the kind of thing I was talking about. My family business doesn't respect boundaries or timing. It's okay. I understand. I'll have my driver take you home. I can take a cab, Isabella. His voice is firm. My driver will take you home. That's non-negotiable. She sees it then, the other side of him. The parquet, used to giving orders and having them obeyed. It should probably bother her. Instead, it sends a thrill down her spine. Okay, she says. Your driver it is. He kisses her goodbye in the restaurant's entrance, and Isabella can feel the eyes of the staff on them. Let them look. Let them see. She doesn't care anymore. None the driver is a stern-faced man in his 50s who introduces himself as Mr. Kim. Mr. Park has instructed me to see you safely to your apartment, he says, and to ensure the building is secure before I leave. That seems excessive. Mr. Kim's expression doesn't change. Mr. Park is very concerned with your safety, Ms. Torres. The drive through Seoul takes 30 minutes. Isabella watches the city lights blur past the window, her mind still processing everything that's happened. She left her diary on Jae-sung's desk. He read it. He kissed her. He told her he's been in love with her for 3 months, too. They're together now. Actually together. It feels surreal. Mr. Kim pulls up to her apartment building, a modest structure in Yongsan that's nothing like the luxury Jae-sung probably lives in. I'll walk you up, he says. Oh, that's really not. Mr. Park's orders. Isabella gives up arguing. Mr. Kim escorts her to her 4th-floor apartment, waits while she unlocks the door, scans the hallway with professional efficiency. Everything appears secure, he says. Good night, Ms. Torres. He's gone before she can thank him. Isabella steps into her apartment, flicks on the lights. Everything looks exactly as she left it this morning. Except now everything is different. Her phone buzzes. Text from Jae-sung. Home safely. She smiles, types back. Your driver took his job very seriously. Good. He's supposed to. This is going to take some getting used to. The security, the drivers, all of it. I know. But you'll have time to adjust. She hesitates, then writes. I miss you already. 3 dots appear, disappear, appear again. I miss you too. I'm sorry I had to leave. My brother has terrible timing. It's okay. I understand. Tomorrow. Dinner again. I'll pick you up at 7. That sounds perfect. Sleep well, Isabella. You too. She sets down her phone, still smiling. This is crazy. This is wonderful. This is terrifying. She's in love with a man whose family has connections to organized crime. She's dating her boss. She just had her most private thoughts read by the object of her affection. And somehow, impossibly, it's all working out. Isabella gets ready for bed, her mind too wired to sleep. She keeps replaying the kiss, the way Jae-sung had looked at her, the things he'd said. I've wanted you since the interview. I've memorized everything about you. I feel the same way. She's half asleep when her phone buzzes again. Jae-sung, are you still awake? Yes. Can't sleep? Me neither. How did the meeting go? Fine. My brother is dramatic, but it's handled. Good. A pause. Then. Isabella? Yes? I'm glad you left your diary on my desk. She laughs, the sound loud in her quiet apartment. Best mistake I ever made. Same. They text until 2 a.m., talking about everything and nothing. When Isabella finally falls asleep, she's smiling. The next 3 weeks are the happiest of Isabella's life. Jae-sung makes good on his promise to take her out every night. They eat at hole-in-the-wall restaurants he knows. They walk through Bukchon Hanok village. They visit museums after hours, Jae-sung calling in favours to get them private access. He's attentive, romantic, surprisingly funny once the professional mask comes off. And he touches her constantly, his hand on the small of her back, his fingers threading through hers, his arm around her shoulders, unlike he can't bear to not be in contact. Isabella melts into it. At work, they maintain professional distance. The board approves the transfer of her oversight to a special committee, removing the direct power dynamic. But everyone knows. The gallery staff figures it out within a week. Mrs. Choi actually smiles when she sees them together. "It's about time," she says. "I've been watching you two dance around each other for months." "Was it that obvious?" Isabella asks. "To everyone except apparently the two of you." The only complication is Jae-sung's family. 3 weeks into their relationship, he tells her it's time to meet them. "My mother is having a dinner," he says. They're in his apartment, a penthouse that makes his office look modest. "She's invited us." "Us, as in you and me, together." Officially." He pulls her closer on the couch. "I've told her about you. She wants to meet you." "What did you tell her?" "That you're brilliant, that you're important to me, that I'm in love with you." Isabella's heart skips. "You told her you're in love with me?" "I told everyone. My mother, my brother, the board." He kisses her temple. "Why wouldn't I? Because we've only been together 3 weeks. I've been in love with you for 3 months. The official relationship status is just paperwork." She laughs. "That's very romantic." "I know, I'm very romantic." He kisses her properly. "Will you come to the dinner?" "Do I have a choice?" "Not really. My mother doesn't accept no gracefully." "Then I guess I'm meeting your family." Jae-sung's expression turns serious. "They're going to be difficult. My mother especially." "She had other plans for who I should marry." "Let me guess. Someone from an appropriate family with the right connections." "Exactly. And I'm the broke American curator who doesn't fit the mold." "You're the brilliant, talented woman I love who doesn't need to fit any mold." He cups her face. "But yes, they're going to test you, judge you, try to find ways you're unsuitable." "Should I be worried?" "No, because I'm going to be right there, and if anyone says anything out of line, they'll answer to me." The protective edge in his voice makes Isabella shiver. "When is this dinner?" "Saturday, 6 p.m., the family estate in Pyeongchang-dong. That gives me 4 days to prepare." "You don't need to prepare. Just be yourself." "That's easy for you to say. You're not the one being evaluated." "They're not evaluating you. They're meeting you." "There's a difference." Isabella isn't convinced, but she doesn't argue. Saturday comes too quickly. The Park family estate is exactly as intimidating as Isabella expected. Traditional Korean architecture, all sweeping roofs and courtyards, surrounded by walls that speak of old money and older power. Jae-sung's driver, Mr. Kim, has apparently been assigned to Isabella permanently, drops them at the main entrance. "Ready?" Jae-sung asks, taking her hand. "Not even a little bit." "Good answer. Honesty is important tonight." They're led through the estate by a silent staff member, through rooms filled with priceless art and antique furniture. Everything here is a statement, a reminder of generations of Park wealth and influence. The dining room is enormous, dominated by a table that could seat 20. Tonight it's set for 5. Jae-sung's mother sits at the head of the table. Late 50s, elegant in traditional hanbok, her hair swept back in a perfect chignon. She looks at Isabella with eyes that miss nothing. Beside her sits a younger man, late 20s, handsome in a way that's almost pretty, wearing a designer suit that probably cost more than Isabella's entire wardrobe. Jae-sung's brother. Has to be. "Mother," Jae-sung says in Korean, then switches to English. "This is Isabella Torres. Isabella, my mother, Park Hae-jin, and my brother Park Min-ho." Isabella bows, hoping she's getting the depth right. It's an honor to meet you. Mrs. Park doesn't bow back. She studies Isabella like she's evaluating a painting, looking for flaws, assessing value. Please sit, she says finally. Her English is perfect, barely accented. Jae-sung has told us much about you. They sit. The next 2 hours are the most uncomfortable of Isabella's life. Mrs. Park asks pointed questions about Isabella's family, working class, her education, good schools but not Ivy League, her previous experience, respectable but not prestigious. Every answer seems to confirm some judgment Isabella can feel but can't quite name. Minho is less hostile but more skeptical. So you're the reason my brother is suddenly so interested in American art, he says. I thought it was a legitimate business interest. Turns out it's just attraction. The business interest is legitimate, Jae-sung says, his voice cold. Isabella is the best Western art curator in Asia. She's building a collection that will be studied for decades. I'm sure she's very talented. Minho's smile doesn't reach his eyes. But mixing business with pleasure is always risky, don't you think? Minho, Mrs. Park says sharply. He subsides, but the damage is done. Isabella feels like she's being dissected. She answers questions about her work, her plans for the gallery's collection, her thoughts on the Korean art market. All the while, Mrs. Park watches with that evaluating gaze. Finally, over dessert, Mrs. Park speaks directly to Isabella. You understand that my son's position is complicated, she says. He's not just a gallery owner, he's the heir to the Park Group. His choices affect more than just himself. I understand, Isabella says. Do you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're a complication he doesn't need. Mother, Jae-sung starts. Isabella touches his hand. Stop. I've got this. She meets Mrs. Park's eyes directly. You're right, she says. I am a complication. I'm American. I don't come from an appropriate family. I don't have the right connections. From a strategic standpoint, I'm probably the worst choice your son could make. Mrs. Park's eyebrows rise slightly. But, Isabella continues, I love him. I see him. Not just the Park heir, but Jae-sung. The man who stands in front of a Basquiat for 20 minutes because it makes him forget how to breathe. The man who learns everyone's names. The man who's trying to build something legitimate out of a legacy he didn't choose. She doesn't look away. I can't offer you strategic alliances or business connections. I can only offer him partnership, honesty, love. If that's not enough for you, I understand, but it's enough for him, and ultimately, that's all that matters. Silence fills the dining room. Minho looks impressed despite himself. Mrs. Park's expression hasn't changed. Then, slowly, she nods. You have fire, she says. I appreciate that. Does that mean you approve? Isabella asks. It means I don't disapprove. Yet. Mrs. Park stands. We'll see how you handle the pressures of being part of this family. If you last 6 months, we'll talk again. It's not a warm welcome, but it's not a rejection either. Isabella will take it. In the car driving home, Jae-sung pulls her close. You were magnificent, he says. My mother respects strength. You showed her strength. I thought I was going to throw up the entire time. You didn't show it. He kisses her hair. I'm sorry they were difficult. It's okay. I expected it. Still, you shouldn't have to prove yourself like that. Yes, I should. You're important to them. They're protecting you, I get it. He pulls back to look at her. How are you this understanding? Because I'd do the same thing if our positions were reversed. If you were dating someone I thought might hurt you, I'd be difficult too. You're perfect. I'm really not. You are to me. He kisses her properly then, deep and thorough, until Isabella forgets they're in a car with Mr. Kim driving. When they break apart, Jae-sung is smiling. Come home with me tonight, he says. Stay. Isabella should probably say no, should probably take things slow. Instead, she says yes. Because she's been in love with this man for 3 months, and she's tired of waiting. That night, in Jae-sung's penthouse surrounded by art and city lights, Isabella finally stops holding back. And it's better than anything she wrote in her diary. So much better. And that's where we'll pause Isabella and Jae-sung's story for now. She's met the family. They're together. Everything seems perfect. But in part 2, things are about to get complicated because Jae-sung's past is about to catch up with him. And Isabella is about to discover just how dangerous loving a Park can be. If you want to find out what happens next, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. Part 2 drops soon, and you won't want to miss it. Drop a comment telling me, what did you think of Isabella standing up to Mrs. Park? Do you think she'll survive 6 months? Thanks for watching, beautiful people. See you in part 2.